At 82, you'd think I'd have all the answers by now, but the truth is, life never stops teaching, especially when the lessons come too late. One of my deepest regrets. Believing that moving into a nursing home was the safest, most loving thing I could do for myself and for my family. Everyone told me it was the right choice. I'd have meals prepared, medical staff on call, and no more worries about the day-to-day. It sounded so comforting, even generous, but no one warned me what I'd be giving up in exchange. What I found wasn't just a smaller room or a different routine. It was a slow unraveling of the life I once knew. I lost more than space. I lost time, freedom, and the quiet dignity of being in charge of my own days. And that's why I'm sharing this with you now. Maybe you're watching this because you're considering a nursing home for yourself, or maybe it's for someone you love. Either way, I want to gently offer you something. I never had the truth. The kind of truth that isn't in brochures or family conversations. The kind that comes only from living it. Because once you step through those doors, things change, and not always for the better. In this video, I'll share 6 things I wish someone had told me before I moved in. Not to scare you, but to prepare you, because you deserve to make this decision with open eyes and a full heart. If you're wondering whether a nursing home is truly the best path forward, I invite you to stay with me until the end. This might be one of the most important conversations we have. First fact, the day I realized my independence wasn't mine anymore. The first morning I woke up in the nursing home, something felt off. It wasn't the sterile sheets or the unfamiliar room. It was something deeper, quieter. A kind of silence that wasn't peaceful, but hollow. I sat up slowly, reached for the book I'd been reading back at home. But of course, it wasn't there. Neither was my cozy armchair or the soft sunlight that used to pour through my living room window while I made tea at my own pace. That morning, I didn't decide when to get up. I didn't choose what I'd eat or when. My day had already been mapped out for me by someone else. No one warns you what it really means to give up your independence. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens in layers. First, it's the little things. You no longer cook your meals, so your favorite breakfast becomes whatever's on the tray. You want to take a walk. Better, wait until someone's available to help you. Want to nap after lunch. Sorry. Group activity is scheduled at one haru. The choices that used to define your day now feel like permissions you have to earn. I remember the first time I asked to go outside just to feel the sun on my face. Let me check the staff schedule, they said. I nodded politely, but sighed. I wilted. At home, the sunlight was mine. Now it was a request. You start telling yourself this is temporary. I can adjust, and you do because you have to. But with each day, something small slips away. Your rhythm, your preferences, your voice. If you're watching this and thinking about making the move, ask yourself, are you ready to give up being the author of your own day? Because once your independence is handed over, getting it back isn't easy. Sometimes it's never returned at all. Second fact, the day the phone stopped ringing. After I lost control over my schedule, I thought at least I still had connection. I told myself I may not decide what I eat or when I walk, but my family, my world still exists beyond these walls. That belief carried me through the first few weeks. My daughter would call every few days. My grandson sent drawings from school Sundays, brought visits, hugs, and stories from the outside world. I clung to them. They reminded me I still mattered, but as weeks turned into months, something shifted. The calls became shorter, then less frequent. The visits moved from weekly to monthly. Birthdays became phone messages instead of shared cake. And slowly, a new kind of silence crept in, the kind that isn't quiet, but loud with absence. It's not that they stopped loving me. I know they care. But life outside these walls moves fast. Their calendars fill, new routines form. And me. I became part of a distant chapter, out of sight and slowly out of mind. I remember sitting in the common room one Christmas Eve, dressed in the sweater my grandson gave me last year. I waited, kept checking the clock, but dinner came and no one arrived. I wasn't angry, just forgotten. The loneliness in a nursing home doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being remembered less and less until you wonder if you still have a place in their world at all. That night I stared at my phone and debated calling my daughter. But I didn't. I didn't want to sound needy. I didn't want a reminder that I still hoped. So I just sat there, quietly disappearing. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself this. Can you handle being invisible in the lives of those you love most? Because the hardest part isn't the solitude. It's the slow unraveling of connection, the fading light of being known. Third fact. The day I stopped feeling useful. When the visits faded and the phone stayed quiet, I tried to fill the silence with something meaningful. I told myself, if they can't be here, I'll make the best of this. I'll keep busy, stay useful. But that's when I discovered another truth. No one warns you about in a nursing home. Purpose is something you have to fight to hold on to. At home, even in my quietest days, I had reason to get up making my coffee, feeding the cat, folding laundry while humming along to the radio. These small rituals gave rhythm to my life. They weren't just chores. They were anchors, reminders that I still contributed to my world. Here, everything is done for you. Meals are prepared. Rooms are cleaned. Medications are handed out like clockwork. You're not asked to do anything, and after a while, no one expects you to. At first, that feels like luxury, but over time, it becomes a quiet erasure. I remember watching George, a former mechanic, who used to repair anything, broken radios, fans, even someone's walker, if the wheel was loose. One day, I saw him staring at a screw on his nightstand. He told me, "I don't know why I picked it up. There's nothing left to fix." That sentence hit me like a punch in the gut because I felt it too. Without purpose, time becomes a blur. You stop looking forward. You start drifting. I found myself staring out the window, not waiting for someone anymore, just waiting for the day to end. Losing purpose doesn't happen all at once. It slips away in layers. First the tasks, then the decisions, then the sense that you matter. If you're thinking about this life, about handing over your routines for comfort, ask yourself this. What keeps you grounded? What gives you meaning? Because without that, it's not just your time that gets lost. It's your identity. Fourth fact, how I aged 10 years in 6 months. After purpose slipped through my fingers, something else followed my strength. Not just the strength to lift or walk, but the quiet, invisible strength that keeps you upright day after day. At first, I didn't notice the change. Who would when every task is handled for you? Meals brought on a tray. Sheets changed without asking. A nurse just a button away. It seemed like care. It felt like rest. But over time, I realized it was erosion. Back at home, I had my little rituals. Getting out of bed, shuffling to the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup. These weren't grand acts, but they kept my muscles engaged, my bones in motion, my spirit alert. In the nursing home, I stopped needing to move, so I stopped moving. That's when the shift began. First, I noticed my legs felt heavier when I stood. I blamed the weather. Then I caught myself avoiding stairs. Then came the cane. Then the walker. One morning I tried to tie my shoes and felt winded. Just bending forward, I stared at the laces like they were mocking me. That was the day. I realized I hadn't just lost strength, I was losing myself. And I wasn't alone. I saw it happen to others, active, spirited people who arrived walking on their own, slowly reduced to needing wheelchairs, then help feeding themselves. The decline isn't dramatic, it's subtle, quiet. A missed stretch here, a skipped walk there. Then, one day your body doesn't remember how to do what it once did without asking. The worst part, you forget how it feels to feel strong. You grow used to weakness like it's normal. And once that weakness settles in, the climb back becomes a mountain you no longer believe you can scale. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself what will keep your body alive. Not just your heart beating, but your limbs working, your spine straight, your hands steady. Because comfort without movement is a slow surrender. And once you stop using your strength, your body stops saving it for you. Fifth fact, when dignity becomes a memory. As my body weakened, so too did something far more fragile, my sense of dignity. You don't realize how much of it is tied to the little moments until those moments are no longer yours. At home, I had privacy. I had boundaries. If I wanted to sit in silence, I could. If I wanted to bathe, I chose when and how. I could wear what I liked, eat when I was hungry, lock a door, and breathe in my solitude. It was my life, mine to shape, mine to manage. But here, in this place that promised safety, dignity became conditional. From the moment I arrived, I noticed it knock once open anyway. A name on a chart. A voice through a curtain. My personal moments turned into scheduled tasks. I once spent 20 minutes standing at the door to my own bathroom, holding it closed with a trembling hand just so I could have 5 minutes to myself. I wasn't embarrassed by the help. I understood that aging demands compromise, but I didn't expect to feel so exposed. Even choosing what to wear became negotiation. This outfit is easier for us to help you with, even food. If I didn't want what was served, there was rarely another option I didn't mind adjusting at first. But over time, those small negotiations became quiet, erasures of who I was. And for those of us who share rooms, privacy is no longer even a memory. Imagine waking up to someone else's cries in the night or being stared at while trying to undress. Imagine needing to speak softly, not because you're tired, but because you no longer feel safe raising your voice. That's what no one tells you when you lose your privacy. You start losing your personhood. You start apologizing for needing space, for asking to wait, for wanting something to be yours and yours alone. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you ready to be observed more than you're heard, to be tended more than you're seen? Because once you surrender your privacy, getting it back is like trying to catch fog in your hands, and your dignity once chipped away doesn't always return whole. Sixth fact, the door that doesn't open back out. At first I told myself this was just a pause, a temporary stay, a soft place to land while I figured out what came next. I even said it aloud to my kids, to the nurse on intake, to myself in the mirror. If I don't like it, I can always leave. But no one told me that once you enter this world, getting out isn't just about walking through a door. It's about everything that gets left behind and everything that quietly changes while you're gone. The first barrier was the physical one. When I arrived, I could still walk without help, still dress myself, still stand tall. But nursing homes are designed for convenience, not movement. Meals come to you. Help arrives at the push of a button. Soon my legs grew sluggish. My confidence thinned. I started needing the very assistance I once thought I would never rely on. That slow dependence became a chain, and with each link the idea of leaving felt heavier. Then there was my home, or rather what was left of it. While I was here, my children began tidying up, sorting, downsizing, just in case, they said. But when I finally said I wanted to go back, I was met with soft hesitations. Are you sure you can handle it alone? What if you fall? And suddenly the keys to my old life weren't mine anymore. The walls that once heard my laughter, the floors that carried my footsteps, they'd started to belong to memory. And emotionally, that might be the hardest barrier of all. This place becomes your world. Your days start to fit into its rhythm. You stop dreaming about someday and start settling into just today. You forget what freedom felt like. And when you do remember, it hurts more than it inspires. So if you're standing on the edge of this decision, I urge you to ask the harder question. Is this truly temporary, or are you unknowingly closing a chapter you won't be able to reopen? Because leaving isn't just about walking away. It's about reclaiming parts of yourself that have quietly learned to live without being free. Looking back, I don't regret growing older. Aging brings its own kind of wisdom, its quiet clarity. But what I do regret deeply is believing that moving into a nursing home was my only choice. I walked in thinking I'd find rest, care, and peace. What I didn't realize was how much I'd leave behind at the door. My routines, my independence, my sense of purpose. even pieces of my identity I didn't know I was handing over. This isn't to say all nursing homes are bad. For some, they're necessary, life-saving even. But for many of us, we arrive too soon. We choose safety over self, convenience over connection. And we forget that freedom once given up is rarely given back without a fight. If I could go back, I would have asked harder questions, explored more in-home care options, fought to stay in the space that felt like mine, because what makes a life meaningful isn't just comfort, it's the ability to choose, to wake up when you want to eat what you like, to move through your day on your terms. If you're standing at this crossroads, either for yourself or someone you love, please don't rush. Listen to those who've been there. Ask what matters most, because once you move in, the world outside moves on without you. And if this video has helped you pause, reflect, or rethink your next steps, please consider subscribing to our channel. We're here to share real stories, hard truths, and honest insight to help you live not just longer, but better. Your journey deserves that, and so do you. Subscribe now, and let's walk this path together with clarity, courage, and care.